Everybody, Steve here. Welcome to The Varied Life. In case you didn't notice, my name is Steve. I am the retired hobby technician, and we are messing around with the Wainlux K10 desktop laser engraver that I have right behind me. I mean, it's like that. Excuse me. And since I've gotten it, I've gotten really into engraving. And I've done a number of projects, wood projects, some metal engraving projects that we ended up doing there. Focus. Come on, focus. Focus. Come on. Seriously. Really. It's not, there we go. So we did some metal engraving stuff on that. We did some basswood or basswood or whatever it is, and kind of doing the same thing. A bunch of test pieces, and we did stuff like this, which just shows some incredible details. And this is just a rinky-dink little thing on basswood using this 5-watt laser system. And then I ventured out and started doing slate tiles. I ordered some slate tiles and ended up with these results. And you can see there I put a little bit of varnish on there, semi-gloss varnish. So yeah, we've got that. Some pretty, I'm enjoying this. Here's another slate one that I ended up doing. I'm going to do a set of ones for me, and you can see the details on that. And here is another one. This is my Warhammer coaster theme, and if we can ever get it to focus, I mean, that's pretty cool. Being able to get that level of detail on coasters is just incredible. And of course, it's got that semi-gloss varnish on there, so it is turning out really well. So today I wanted to go over again because I'm still practicing, I'm still learning, and what we ended up doing is going through, and I just want to show you a little bit of the workflow. So the first thing that I end up doing before my machine is even on, when it's turned off, I'll open the lid and then I'll adjust the laser focus height. So we're good to go on that. For whatever material, you always want to focus your laser. Now, some laser systems, obviously the more expensive ones, they have automatic focus, which, that would be nice. But, that's what I have. I've got a little 5-watt beginner level, inexpensive laser engraving thing. So you have to do it manually, which isn't a big deal. But with that, once I get that focus level done, which is just kind of letting loose a knob and then throwing a little arm down and it lands on the material that you're going to be engraving, and then you tighten the knob, flip the arm back up, and that's it. So it's real Barney basic. Anyway, after that, I end up getting a photo, and what I'll end up doing is either do like AI generation or clip art or things like that. I also did my wife's got them. I did some coasters for the wife, so it's got like daisies and a cup of coffee on there with some coffee beans and stuff like that. That ended up working out really well. And I made a set of 4 coasters for her that has like her name on it, our daughter's name, my name, and then our last name. Look really, really sharp. So now we're going to go over and look at what we're doing in regards to the workflow. So we pop up here into LIghtburn. Now we're already connected up. We turn the machine on, and if we go down here to the bottom right, we see that yes, we are hooked up to our K10, which is on the USB serial port. And once you connect, usually you'll have to go down here and you'll have to hit that, and then you'll hear the laser move and make some movements and then go to the home position. You should know that the laser should be in the home position, so if you move it around, like when you're focusing, always put it in that front left position, because it's not that smart. It's smart, but it's not that smart. So if you leave it in some other position, it'll start going brrr, making some strange noises. So then what we end up doing is we have an 80 by 80 build area, and I'll just drag and drop a picture into here. Then we can resize it. So for example, we have this one here. If it's big or small or whatever it is, you can go up to here, and what I'll end up doing is just entering in like 75, and that will change the size of the picture. And then if I go up here, we've got the magnifying glass, and it says that it's zoomed to the page. Well, what that's going to do is zoom that item, or zoom the build area as full as the page will allow us. And so we got that. Now to center this into the page, into our build area, we go to this top right, and we have move to page center, and boom, there we are. Then what we'll end up doing is we'll just kind of pull these, for me, to the very edge, because I want to maximize as much as possible. And boom, we do a preview, and that's what we're going to get. Sometimes if it's over, like if I do this and it's a little bit over and you hit preview, it'll say one or more shapes are crossing the edge of the machine workspace and will not be sent. So we don't want to continue. So we always want to bring it back down to where we're just within the bounds, especially since we're doing slate coasters. And we'll run that again, and we're good to go. And this should take about 23 minutes, 24 minutes. Sometimes there's a few minutes before, later, it is what it is. But before we send this to black slate, what we need to do is click on the image, and we'll right click and go down to adjust image. So then we come up with a screen here that shows the graphic that we pulled in to LIghtburn. This is the original graphic here. And then we go down here, and what we actually did was take and hit the negative image. Now with the negative image, because we are engraving on black, we need to switch that and have that negative image. Otherwise, it's not going to work out right. So we do that, and then we play with the contrast, the brightness, the gamma, the sharpening, and which they call radius, and the enhance amount. Usually somewhere within this range. This one's a little bit different because we got some different colors. We got some grayscale in there, which I'm not sure how this is going to work out. So, you know, we could adjust this down, but you know, we don't want it like that because then we'll lose some of the details in his armor and helmet. So we kind of want to keep that black, but then, you know, it's just kind of playing with it. And if we can keep some good amount of black, because that's going to end up with our shapes, you know, our engraving being like that. The black is going to be white and the white is going to be black. Got to try to find that nice balance. And this is a real tricky one because these other ones were basically just the figure itself, and then I engraved a circle, and it was fairly easy. I was kind of amazed. So yeah, we end up playing with this, trying to get a balance of, you know, the black and the dark, and you know, getting some good shadows on there and stuff. So I think we're kind of happy with that. So we'll just go ahead and hit OK. And there is our image. And if we go back to preview, it'll show the updates that we have. And that should look pretty good. We should be able to get some good action on the skulls and the detail, the chains and all that. I'm pretty hopeful for this. So really looking forward to that. With that being said, what we'll do is we'll frame, and matter of fact, let's just go ahead. If I hit the frame button, which if you're wondering where the frame button is, it is over here on the right hand side. You have frame with a square, which will highlight the entire build area that you have, and then you have frame with a circle, which will only go around the edges of the item that you're going to engrave. So if I hit frame with the circle, it'll just go around in a circle because my graphic is a circle. But if I hit frame as like that, it'll just go in a square for the build area. But if I go ahead and hit frame with the circle, it'll go through. Well, it's still doing I don't know why it's still doing the square. Let's return this home. We'll try that again. Oh, I know why it's still going into a square. Seriously, really? The thing is, I have a transparent background, and so the image itself is actually square, but I have transparent background, but the image is still square. If I was able to round the corners and just kind of mask that to a circle so that I don't have a square image, but it's actually a circle or an oval, then when I hit the circle frame, it would just go in a circle. So sorry for confusing you on that. Anyway, and I've done that. I'm practicing on masking images to shapes. I'll probably do another video on that because I've had some people contact me and ask me how to do that. How do you put an image onto like a square or a circle, something like that, that you make in LIghtburn? So anyway, we got this going on. So the next thing we are going to do is to just run start. And it says cut might be out of bounds due to overscan settings. Continue anyway. Now I want to explain about this. When we go to the preview, overscan is where the laser is going to actually fire. So in these white lines, the laser is going to be firing, and then it's going to stop. And at this red line, that's the overscan. And the overscan is like 1 millimeter. So the laser is actually going to move, going to stop engraving, then it'll go 1 millimeter, then it'll change direction and come back and pick up speed. And then once it gets back to the engraving area, boom, it'll engrave, and that's how it's going to work. With the overscan, it's not going to make a difference, at least what I've seen with my K10, if the overscan is past your build area. Okay, there are some extreme limits, but as long as it's just the overscan, you can still engrave your image. But if your image is outside of the build area, then it won't allow you to do that. So like, for example, this little row here, which is some artifacts, if this was on the other side of the line here, which is the border of our build area, if these little white lines were over here, we wouldn't be able to engrave. The machine wouldn't let us, and the software would give us that warning and say, yeah, you can't do this. So when we go up here, we do that, we hit OK, and we're going to go ahead and hit start. It says cut might be out of bounds due to overscan settings. We're just going to go ahead and continue anyway. And hopefully in about 23 minutes, we will be on our way. So some people have asked me what are the settings for Slate for the K10, and you're going to have to do your own testing. I suggest doing a little test here to where you do your speed and your power. And I've seen people recommend a speed of 1,000 all the way up to 5,000 with 50% speed and 100% speed or 100% power. So between 1,000 and 5,000 for speed and between 50 and 100 for power. And then what you can end up noticing is that you'll get some different colors. So when we look at a speed of 1,000 at 100% power, we can see there's a little bit of yellowness or tinge where it's kind of burning that slate. But as soon as we get to 50% power at 5,000, then we're getting more kind of a whiter, frostier look. If this thing will focus. And so if that's the desired color that you want, you could go with 50% at, 5,000 speed or 4,000. And again, the slower it is, the longer it's going to take. But I'm getting some real good results with the 5,000 at 50%, so that's kind of what I run with. So yeah, this is going to be a little interesting to see how this comes out. Usually what I'll end up doing is I'll put a circle around it, engrave a circle like I did on these here, to kind of frame that out onto the coaster. This one is a little bit different. I'm hoping that the graphic and how we did this will come out and look okay. And again, if we do the preview, the white is going to be black and the black is going to be white it's the negative image thing. So again, we'll see how this pans out. But yeah, it's an addictive thing. It's a thing. It's a pretty addictive thing. So let's see if we can zoom in there a little bit. We'll kind of get this in frame there. And I wonder, I think I might be able to do some manual focus action. Get a little bit clearer. I don't know, maybe not. So that's the autofocus. The autofocus seems to be going in and out because of the laser. But with the manual focus, you can really see what we got there. See, can we zoom in a little bit more? Yes, we can. Now, unfortunately, I'm limited by the engraving area, which is 80 by 80 millimeters, which is 3.14 inches by 3.14. So I'm kind of limited in the amount of space that I can engrave. But with these 4-inch coasters, which are 100 millimeters, it tends to look pretty nice. And even if they're not coated, like what we can end up seeing here, this is just kind of the slate and the engraving by itself. There is no lacquer, there is no varnish on it, clear coat or anything like that. So yeah, it just ends up, that was a pretty nice, I mean, that is a real good one. And I think this would look really good with engrave a circle around it to try to stay with the other ones where I have, you know, a circle going around them. But, you know, I got a few more coasters to do, and I could always go back and try to put another circle around this one, which I think that's what I'll end up doing. That's a good idea. So I'll have my coasters and see how these ends up. I think this one is going to, if it turns out good, I'll end up taking some of the basswood that I got, and what we'll end up doing is cutting out a little stand out of this basswood, and so that way we can do that, which, by the way, I probably need to take a look at. But yeah, this laser engraving stuff, it is cool. I am definitely digging it. Let me see. 3mm basswood, simple stand. .3D models to print, so I can go on like Yagi or whatever, however you pronounce that. No, that's not really what I want. That's more than what I want to do. NDF. Let me see if that can work. Maybe if I put phone stand, maybe I could end up coming up with something like that. Not so much that. I don't know. I'm definitely gonna because there's some. I would like to have like a stand, and boom, that would be kind of cool. But I don't necessarily want a phone stand. I just want a little MDF stand. Cut stand. So we're taking a look here, and I'll show you what I'm looking at. So we're looking at some stands, so maybe something like that. Free patterns area. What happened? Oh no. Denied. Rejected. Vector file. That could work. That would look good. See how this comes out. Okay, maybe something like that. I don't know. I'll end up seeing. But let's go back to our engraving, and we see that we got that going on. Yeah, I really want to get a larger engraver, and I'm going to this next year. I'm just gonna have to save my nickels and dimes and donate blood or sell my plasma, whatever it is. Save my allowance and pretty much kind of saved on my birthday. Not really going to do Christmas. So I'll save up that and my allowance, and we'll see what kind of engraver I want to get. And really, I think it comes down to the variables that we're talking about. We're talking about the material. So if you have, one of the variables is going to be your material. And because each material you're going to have to do a test. Like I showed you on the Slate, here's another one for basswood to get the best results with your individual laser for your location, your heat, your humidity, and all the different materials. So, yeah, you got to have all that dialed in. So you have to dial in the materials. And then the other thing I think you have to do, and I've only been doing this for a short period of time, but the graphic that you use, you're going to have to adjust that in some way, shape, or form, because not everything is going to be, just throw it on there, boom, and print. Like for example, on these, you're going to have to adjust the image. Not only create it or click the tab, it says, the box that says make it a negative image, but you're going to have to play with the contrast, the sharpening, the gamma radiation, and some other things. To be able, the brightness, the darkness, there's other programs out there like that imageart.com where you can play with a bunch of other things, colors, individual variables, and whatever. You can set the DPI, dots per inch. So in other words, do you want something that has a lot of dots per inch so that you get a lot of good high quality details, or not? Is it going to be a clip art where it's basically a silhouette, kind of like the circles that are around the shapes here? That's just a ring. There's no, you set it at like an interval of like 0.05, which is about 500 DPI, but really it's just an engraving. It's a fill of that item that you made, that graphic, and that's it. But when you're getting into photos and photographs, even some clip art, things like that, you'll need to make some minor adjustments. So, and especially with doing slate or things that have a dark background, there seems to be a lot more variables there. So you have your material, you have your graphics, and adjusting those, and then really, I think that's about it. You know, testing your materials to find out the best settings for your machine for that material, and then adjusting the image, and then just going to town. Along with that, kind of a subcategory, there's a difference between the cutting of an item versus the engraving of an item. And so you can engrave an item and you could be great on that, but when you cut, unless you have done a cut test as well, kind of like when we do an engraving test, you can actually do a cut test to show you the best settings to get you the cleanest cut. And I've also found out that cuts make a big difference depending on the base that you're cutting on. So if you have a honeycomb, you can get a lot cleaner cuts. And of course, if you have a vent system and air assist, you can get cleaner cuts than with something like I have here, which if you notice that bed, it doesn't have a honeycomb. So when I cut through it, you'll get some flashback and smoke on the back of the items, which, let me show you what I'm talking about, blah, blah, blah. And that will, you know, I mean, check that out there. That's a lot of, that's a lot of smoke, but then that's a lot of power. That's like 100% power at a speed of like 45 to 60, and then it made 2 passes. You know, and that's what it looks like on that side. So to get a nice clean cut, you would probably not want to use that. Where's my other one? So here's a little different one, 45 to 60% at the cut, and that ends up being a little better. But just because I don't have air assist and because I don't have a honeycomb, that laser is going to go through and it's going to kind of flash on the back of that, if that ever focuses. But you can see what I'm talking about. So not only do you have to do a test grid for engraving, you have to do a test grid for your cutting. And when you're getting into images, if you're looking at engraving photographs, whether it's on wood or different materials, now that's a whole nother set of variables and things that you have to learn. Because now then you have to do a grayscale test. And to see where does your laser start actually engraving at what percentage of power. Because like on this little laser here, it ends up that I can set the laser at 1, 2, or 3%, and the laser will be on, but it won't engrave anything. It isn't until it gets to like 5 or 4 or 5%, 6%, depending on the material. And again, that's another variable of when it will actually start engraving or, you know, burning into the material. So yeah, a lot of different variables to play with when we start getting into laser engraving. And you know, you're limited by what your laser can do. Some things, the more detailed is going to take more time, especially if your speed is slower. But then some things like this coaster is, what was the, take a look at this. But the coaster ended up being like 20 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, like 23 minutes, and we got about 6 minutes left. I probably should have shrunk this down and put that engraved a ring around that. I think that would look better. But I was hoping, I don't know, we'll see how it goes. I could always go back and do a partial circle, but I got a couple others that I can try and do the circle and stuff like that, so I'm not too worried about it. And then the other cool thing about Slate is that you can actually clean the slate off. So, like when I ended up doing a test, tried doing a photo, and of course that didn't come out too well. Still playing around with the pictures and everything, but obviously there's a whole new skill set when it comes to adjusting graphics for, and it even comes out. That's a little bit of a tinge, kind of a sepia tinge, so I would need to change the settings for the engraving of pictures, because this is, I'm getting more of a white color on this here than I am on this here, which shows kind of a sepia color. And so again, that just shows that the different items and even the different graphics will need different tests. So, but the good thing about Slate is I can take this, I can get some sandpaper and sand it all off, and boom, I can redo the test again. Now it will come out smooth, because like on the back here, you can see the texture on the slate, and I've got an old practice. I was practicing to see if I could get the settings right on this coaster, but on this one here, I have engraved a number of times on it, and you can notice how it's really smooth. Well, that's because I've sanded this thing down like 4 or 5 times, so it is really, really smooth. But I can still do some practice engraving on this, and if I don't like it, just take it off, sand it, boom, I'll be good to go, and I can practice to my heart's content until I get the settings that I want, and then I can go back to the nice tile and get good settings there. Supposedly we have about 3 minutes and 30 seconds left, and we can see that the image is coming along just fine. The laser, it's doing its laser thing, which is good. But I definitely like that border. I like the border around that item. And actually, what I could end up doing and what I might do is going back to LIghtburn, and I could end up doing like a circle, and we'll hold down our shift so it's a perfect circle. We'll just set it to there, and then we'll hit this. We'll drag this here, here, and here. I think a little bit down there. And we should be good. What we can end up doing is also going down here to this tool, and we can put that shape and have an inward offset distance. And I think 1.75 is good. So we can do that. And then there's actually 2 parts to this. Interesting. But I'm going to have the hammer, so this is going to have to go in the back. So I have to grab that one and that one, because it's 2 different shapes. You have the outer circle, and then when you do the offset, it'll have that as another circle. So I've selected both of those. I'll go up here to the top and I'll hit group. And so now when I click on this, I can end up moving this around and I'm good to go. So now if I wanted to get this, I need to get rid of that there for the hammer. And I might be able to do a Boolean whoosy whatsy thing, but I'm not sure how I'm going to do that here. I need to cut, basically have a cut there, which I don't know if that's what that does. Cut away sections of pass by clicking Control Command plus K. What did that end up saying? When clicking to prevent automatic joining of the results. Okay. So we will select that and control or command K. Of course, it's on the other side. I don't know. I'll have to play around with that. But I hear our laser is almost done. So what we'll end up doing is we'll take a look at that. Alrighty, we are done. So let's take a look at this, and we'll kind of back up, get that out. Dust it off, as we can see there. And we will take a look. So let's go back to the big screen. And here is what we ended up getting. So that is pretty good. I would still like to have a circle around that like I do on these other ones, like I made on here. So you can see the details on that, but having that circle around there to frame it out, I think that works out really good. So I might be able to do something similar to that, but look at the details on that. I mean, the individual chain links, all of that stuff on there, the skulls, the building in the background. I mean, that turned out really, really nice. I'm really impressed with that. So, yeah, that's not bad. And then throw on some varnish, and that's the difference between these of having varnish or not. So one ends up being kind of shiny, the other one not so much, more natural. And there's like a good representation there. Let's see the difference between the natural, which is this one, or this one here, versus the one that has varnish on it. So yeah, that was really cool. That turned out really good. But I got to figure out how to do that graphic and that line to engrave that, but have cuts in there. So we'll have to do that, play around with that. Again, something else to learn on LIghtburn and using the Wainlux K10 to do some awesome Warhammer coasters. So yeah, this turned out pretty good. Not bad at all. Everything in the video is backwards, so yeah, there's that. But yeah, I'm really, really, really pleased with that. That turned out really good. So we'll have to play around with it some more. But that's kind of the workflow that I end up doing, is that I'll set the machine, the laser height for the material, and then I'll go to LIghtburn, I'll bring the graphic in, I'll make the adjustments, make sure that all the settings for that cut layer, or however many layers there are, double click that, which I don't think I showed you all that. I showed you how to just click the image and then right click on it, but to come over here and double click on that, there you can end up setting your speed, your power, you know, your lines per inch or your line interval and all that. But a lot of what I ended up doing was taking and importing these settings that I found that works really well with these graphics and with these coasters, Slate coasters, and I put it into a library. So, like here it is, Slate. So all I did is put that in there, and 80 millimeter round slate engraving. and I can assign that to a layer. It's already assigned, so we're good to go. But you can save these settings. So if I took this and say it was a new material or whatever, I could create new from layer. So whatever this layer is here, I check all the boxes, put all the numbers that I want, and then I can save that to the library. So next time I do a coaster, I can put the coaster on the machine, I can come to my library, double click, assign it, boom, and we're good to go. So yeah, pretty neat stuff. So anyway, that's what we got going on. Again, doing the little coaster things here for the, if I can get it to focus. I mean, isn't that is some cool details there on Slate. I am very, very impressed. So, learning some new stuff. But that's going to be it for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video on YouTube, The Varied Life. I'm Steve, the retired hobby technician who's retired overseas and living in Korea and having fun with some hobby tech stuff. So with that, we will see you on the next video. Peace. That's pretty good.